for that. We didn't have a class last week because of a walima that was taking place inside of the masjid. So it wasn't possible to facilitate a class. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we will have a class, and then our final class will be next week, and then we're done with this course. So last week, or last lesson, should I say, we were going through the second aspect that compromises that which is most precious to every Muslim, and that is his Tawheed. Do you guys remember what it was? Feminism. This is what we started exploring. And we mentioned that feminism, it stands on two pillars. What are the two pillars that feminism stands on? The two pillars that feminism stands on. You know, we have Islam that stands on 5 pillars, right? Feminism stands on 2 pillars. What were they? Ahsant, Jazakallah khair. Calling for the structure of society to be changed in order to make men and women equal. Calling for the structure of society to be changed so that men and women become equal. And Allah says in the Quran, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. Men are not like women, or women are not like men. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created each one of them differently. Right? This is why it would be unethical to instruct our wives and our daughters and our women folk to do some of these hard labor jobs that maybe only men are fit for. And likewise, when it comes to wars that take place, you look at what is taking place in Ukraine and in Russia. Where are all of the feminists? Where are all the feminists who normally call out for the structure of society to be changed so that men and women are equal? Why are they not participating as well? Right? And then the second pillar that it stands on was what? Give you guys a clue. Showing opposition to the traditional household. No, the family unit. That which a female has had throughout history. All the way up until the 1960s, a woman was known to be what? To be either a housewife, right? To be a mother. This is what she was known for. And this was what was perfectly normal within society. Up until these women, they started calling for rights and whatever have you. So we already discussed all of that. Right? What we wanted to elaborate on was that which relates to the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, الرجال قوامون على النساء. This is a verse that many of our sisters have a huge problem with. So much so, right, statements of kufr are uttered. Statements of disbelief. You will see the sister coming to this verse and saying, no, it shouldn't be applied. Or this doesn't fit the narrative. What narrative? The narrative that she has been fed. And who said that this is now the measuring stick to how we view the world? Where did it come from? According to who? When we go into liberalism, inshallah ta'ala, in a moment, you will come to realize how the aql, the intellect, is muqaddas indahum. It is above everything. It is that which is sacred. Right? So it revolves around one's intellect. Very individualistic. Who determines for us how we should structure our lives? And this is very, very common. Right? Who determines how we structure our lifestyles? What we should do and what we shouldn't do? Right? So this is what she has been made to believe. So she comes to this verse, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض. Right? What does it actually mean? Right? Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says in this verse, men are in charge of women by right of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given one over the other, and also what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. Sometimes the way this is understood my beloved brothers and sisters, is that a man can walk over a woman, he can oppress her, he can take her wealth, right? Simply because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uttered a statement, which all in essence, my brothers and my sisters, is a misconception in how this verse has been understood. Let's tweak that a little bit, right? You're thinking that he has rights over you. You should be looking at this verse and saying, these are the rights that I, as a woman, have over my husband. These are rights, right, that you are entitled to. What are these rights? He is there to defend you, to protect your honor. He is there to put his body on the line when you are in danger and in a very vulnerable situation, right? In whatever situation you find yourself in, which is troublesome for you, that puts you at risk, it is his role now to come and protect you, right? You've got these YouTubers discussing amongst themselves, huh? If I'm upstairs with my partner and then someone now breaks into the house, who's going to go downstairs? Huh? Who's going to go downstairs? Because of course, this narrative of 50-50, she can go and defend herself. I'm not going to defend her. Why am I going to put my life on the line? Everything is 50-50 anyway, right? Let her go and put her body on the line. Of course, this is not something that is manly, right? So this aspect of what this verse is saying has been completely disregarded of what it actually means. If anyone tries to disparage your dignity or your reputation in the slightest way, he must be there to defend you. And of course, this is in contrary to what we see today in the world of diyatha, right? As I just elaborated on a moment ago. The world of diyatha. What does diyatha mean? Where one has completely lost his protective jealousy over his womenfolk. Being manly, right, is no longer existent, right? So as I mentioned, that what our sister needs to understand is that you, right, coming under the leadership of your husband, right, it means that he's your protector, your maintainer, and that is the right that you have over him. Even if you are filthy rich, Allahumma barik, Allah blessed you with wealth, right? It is him that has to provide for you, to clothe you. Does she have to spend from her money? Al-jawabu la. If she wants to help out, then great, no problem. But is this something now, right, that is an obligation over her shoulders? Abadan. And by the way, this is not something that is just a sunnah, right, that he has a choice to fulfill. This is a mandatory duty that he has over his women. It is a mandatory duty that he has over his women. One of the verses that we quoted also last week, my brothers and my sisters, that is important to mention under this concept that compromises your Tawheed, is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, right, وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Any methodology or ideology or a thought process that comes from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're bound to find discrepancies. There's a car blocking everyone. It's DG63KMM. DG Delta Golf 63 Kilo Mike. Yes, I worked for a call center once upon a time. طيب. الشاهد من الكلام يا جماعة, right? Any ideology, any methodology that comes from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is bound to have discrepancies and contradictions. Take that as a qa'ida. Allah Azza wa Jal told us that. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Anything, any concept, right, that people bring into existence in order to structure one's life, it is bound to have contradictions, flaws. It's not going to be consistent. As we will come to know also when we go into the matter of liberalism. Right? So what do I mean by this, my beloved brothers and sisters? We mentioned that from the founding mothers of feminism is who? Do you guys remember her name? Ahsant, Simone de Beauvoir, a French, right, activist, one of the founding mothers of feminism. What is so ajib is that she who waged war against the family unit, right, destroyed it to pieces and convinced so many women that this is how they should construct their lives or structure their lives. Right? They began to rebel against their menfolk. Right? And we mentioned some of their statements. Right? We mentioned some of their statements in how to identify whether a woman has been affected by this ideology. Where they begin to target anyone who has these views, they would start referring to them as fundamentalists. That religion is a barrier to women's rights and demands that religion needs to be reinterpreted. Offers absolutely no protection to housewives or full-time mothers, encourages the choice to care, or should I say discourages, the choice to care for one's own children. This is what it stood on. الآن يا جماعة, look at this lady, Simone de Beauvoir. Right? Put this into perspective, or now compare this to what she uttered with her own tongue. She speaks about her partner. His name is Sartre. That's how you pronounce it, huh? Sartre? Oh, these are French names, ya Jama'ah. طيب, she would refer to him as the true superior. Sartre is her true superior. This is the woman, who waged war against the family unit. Men and women need to be equal. ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا في اختلافا كثيرا. While she doesn't realize this is what she's spewing out, contradicting that which she has been putting down as nazariyat, as rules and principles, and how one should structure his life and how they should be, and with madriyesh. Look what she says. I felt dominated by someone else intellectually. This is really a feminist saying this? I felt dominated by someone else intellectually. Sartre lived up to the man I had dreamt up at the age of 15. I was simply not in his class. She has now reduced herself to this. This woman who was meant to be the flag bearer, she has reduced herself to who we are saying here. And by the way, there's absolutely nothing wrong with thinking like that. However, someone who uttered all of these statements is now reducing herself to what we are reading out. She says, I detest my own reflection. If at least my thought had given birth to a hill, a rocket, but no, nothing has taken place. I am astonished to realize how thoroughly I have been cheated. Also, she says, when speaking about preparing for her new independent home in Paris and waiting for the return of Sartre, right? New furniture was bought, the walls papered, and new clothes were purchased. She would say Sartre hated family life, and he persuaded her to write the book. He called her a mere housewife. She is there trying to please him, trying to be the best that she can, right? With this partner of hers, Sartre, something that she's been waging war against. And at the same time, she sees herself not having done enough. So she's writing it in this way, complaining about her situation, miskina. She says, I was furious with myself to have disappointed him in this way. Right? And then you ask yourself the question, was second wave feminism created by a man because of how he made her feel like? This is just how naturally a woman has been created. And her nature started coming out, not realizing that this is actually going against everything that she stood for. وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدَ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِي اخْتِلَافٍ. anything that comes from other than Allah Azza wa Jal with regards to structuring your life, you're bound to find, right, flaws, contradictions, ila ghayr dhalik. Also, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but there was a discussion that took place between Betty Friedan and also Simone de Beauvoir. Did I mention this last week? I don't think I did. طيب. There was an interview between these two founding mothers of feminism. You have the American one, and then you also have what? The French one that came together. Betty Friedan was an American writer, activist. She wrote a book called The Feminine Mystique. Anyone ever read that? You read it? Huh? Wallahi, you read it? طيب. This book is often credited with sparking the second wave feminism in America. So she asked her a question: do you think women should be given the right, or the choice, should I say, of becoming housewives? Betty Friedan, who's the American founding mother of feminism, right? She asks this question now to Simone de Beauvoir. Look what the response is. She says, no. Right? We don't believe that any woman should have this choice. Why? Why shouldn't he have this choice or this option? She says no woman should be authorized to stay at home to raise her children. Society should be totally different. Women should not have that choice, precisely because, look what she says, because she knows what the fitrah, the natural disposition of women is. Precisely because if there was such choice, too many women will end up taking that choice. Too many women will end up taking that choice. Right? And that brings me on to the article on the Daily Mail, which I am going to make sure that it reaches the four corners of the world. Excuse me for mentioning this title, but this is exactly what the feminists done in the 1960s. It says, did the feminists burn their bras for nothing? This is what they were doing, right, in the 1960s, to campaign for their rights. And then it says, majority of British women, right, the English lady that we might look up to, sahih, that we want to imitate, that we take as role models, that they are the ones that are progressive, sahih. They are the ones that are successful in life. A miskina, brown lady looks at the English lady and thinks, look how well she's doing in life. When you dig deep, she's someone who has what, completely cut off from family life. All she does is work 9 to 5, stack up that money thinking that this is going to bring her happiness, but in reality she's miserable. Right? Majority of British women would pick being a housewife over having a career. Right? So women aged 25 and over who were in a relationship and in full-time jobs, they were asked. Pay attention, guys, right? You have the fitrah versus what? These modern day thought processes and ideologies and the way people structure their lives, right? And it concluded with the following: 62% admitted they secretly wish to be a housewife. 62%. This is the English lady. The English British lady. 74% said they felt pressure from other women to be independent. That's a big number, guys. 74%. 78% said they wouldn't mind being financially dependent on their partners. Feminism was a hoax, guys. Feminism was a hoax. Who's the victim? Those who embraced this ideology, thinking that this is going to maybe give them a better worldview. This is going to structure their lives in a much better way. And here you are. You cannot change how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought a woman into existence and what she's inclined to or what she leans towards. You cannot do that as a human being, no matter how much you try. And eventually the contradictions will begin to be very visible. طيب. So anyways, when I was earlier talking about the رجال قوامون على النساء, he has to protect her, he has to maintain her, he has to make sure that her reputation is preserved, safeguarded. All of that in return of what? Her being obedient to husband. It's a really big ask. That he has the final say in the house. That doesn't mean, of course, that a man should walk around being bossy, right? Being oppressive. No, of course, should have conversations. However, if you go off with two rulers living in the same house, you're never going to get anywhere. Agreed? The Arabs, they have a saying, أنا الأمير وأنت الأمير. إذا من يقود الحمير? I am the Amir, I am the leader, and you are the leader. Okay, who's going to ride the donkey? It has to be one leader. Otherwise, it's going to be chaos. If there's no leader in the house, it's a problem. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi, he has a very profound statement. He says, ستون سنة 60 years مع إمام جائر, with an oppressive ruler, is better than one night without no ruler. What's going to happen if there's one night without no ruler? It's going to be chaos. It's going to be non-stop bloodshed. Everyone, right, is chasing after that leadership. Right? Putting that now into perspective, if in the house now there's no leader, right, or everyone deals with the other as a leader, it's like having Ronaldo and Messi in the same team. It's a bit difficult. So you need one. طيب. The next aspect, inshallah ta'ala, is that which relates to secularism. Another aspect or concept that is going to compromise that which is most precious to you, and that is your Tawheed. So I have some verses written down under this concept. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Do you believe in some parts of the book, but you disbelieve in others? What is secularism? It is the separation of religion from the state. Right? The separation of church, they normally use these wordings, right? The separation of church from the state. Right? It's not just church, because now even Muslims are adopting this concept. So the separation of religion from the state, or from governmental related issues. Right? أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. You believe in some aspects, but then in other aspects, you actually don't believe in it. Or you believe that it doesn't really do you much. I'm going to read out, inshallah ta'ala, something that was uttered by one of the ministries, right? Or ministers, where he talks about how they are a secular state, or him being a secular Muslim. He says the following, and inshallah ta'ala, this will put it into perspective of what exactly secularism is. He said, and I quote, "We believe in separation between religion and state." He says, I believe that, my government believes that. I think that's the way to the future. I've been in government for 20 years and I've never sat in a meeting where we had to debate a policy and say, well, what does our religion say about this? What does our religion say about what we should do with regards to our policies? Right? What does our religion say what we need to do on the energy front? Or what does the Quran say about how we should structure our infrastructure? So anything related to the state, take religion out of it. Look what he says, right? This part is very important. He says that's how it works. We believe that religion is a personal thing. Is religion just a personal thing, my brothers and my sisters? Of course not. Right? If I want to pray in my house 5 times a day, or 50 times a day, or 0 times a day, that's my business. That's not the business of the state. Right? So completely separating religion from the affairs of the state or the affairs of the government. On a more personal level, right? If you want to practice your religion, go and practice your religion. That's entirely up to you. Right? If you want to do that, that's entirely up to you. But anything else related to what is happening on a more larger scale, stay out of it. And when you think about it again, my brothers and my sisters, وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Anything that comes from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? Going to have contradictories. So let me now read out that which is going to completely debunk this way of thinking, right? In a nutshell, a secular Muslim is someone who believes, pay attention here, right? That the Creator was sufficient enough to set highly calculated and mathematical and physical laws that organize planets in orbit, but wasn't sufficient enough to create laws that organize the human society. Right? You believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was fit as a creator, and He was sufficient enough to create that which, right, a human being can come nowhere near in forming or creating. But when it comes to the matters of the state, laws, and human society, He wasn't sufficient. Can you see how contradictory there is? Allah can do all of that, we agree and accept it. When you hear a secular Muslim talking about this, right? Or someone who identifies as such. But when it comes to that which relates to human society, passing laws, how to run our governments, then, we take God out of the situation, right? We leave Islam completely out of it. هذه مصيبة. And this is why we quoted a verse, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. You believe in some parts of the book, but then there's other parts that you deny or that you reject. Did everyone get that, my brothers and my sisters? Right? Did you guys get that? Did you guys get the point? Someone who identifies as a secularist Muslim, Allah Azza wa Jal was sufficient enough, right, to structure the way the world is created and the way everything moves, right? The planets, the orbit, and so on and so forth. But when it came to aspects of our government, we need to keep him out of it because we know better. Or we believe that this is the way forward. Sovereignty and governance and lawmaking, my brothers and my sisters, it belongs to who? It belongs to Allah. In order to remain as a Muslim, you must make Allah Azza wa Jal the only sovereign in your life, even over your own desires. The judgment of Allah Azza wa Jal is sought in every aspect of your life. Right? So when this individual now says, I never sit down or we never discuss amongst ourselves, what does Islam or what does the Quran say about some of the policies? This is very, very dangerous. Why? Why is it so dangerous? You may even fall into kufr. Or you may now wage war with Allah Azza wa Jal by transacting with a type of transaction that involves a riba. But because this is a matter of the state, we don't bring religion in. Right? Take religion completely out. And it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He says, أَفَحُكْمَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ يَبْغُونَ. Do you desire the hukum, the rulership of jahiliyyah, of ignorance? Right? Also Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Whoever doesn't judge by the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these people are from the kafirun, from the zalimun, from the fasiqun. All of this is mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah. So when it comes to sovereignty, when it comes to governance and lawmaking, that's the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's no one else's right. Right? So this is why it's so, so dangerous. It is so, so dangerous to one's Tawheed. It is so dangerous to that which is most precious to him, his Islam. Right? If me and you dispute now, my brothers and my sisters, who is it that we need to go back to? Which law do we have to go back to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's law. Right? And the ayat are many. No. Also, the verse that I have written down here is when Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِنَّمَا كَانَ قَوْلُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذَا دُعُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ لِيَحْكُمَ بَيْنَهُمْ أَنْ يَقُولُوا سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. The way of the believer is when he is now called to judge, right? They come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they come back to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's law, right? And they say, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We listen and we obey. This is the way of those who are successful. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, and this is from the verses I have written down, which completely oppose this concept of secularism. Allah says in the Quran, مَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا وَزِينَتَهَا نُوَفِّي إِلَيْهِمْ أَعْمَالَهُمْ فِيهَا وَهُمْ فِيهَا لَا يُبْخَسُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَيْسَ لَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا النَّارُ وَحَبِطَ مَا صَنَعُوا فِيهَا وَبَاطِلُ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Allah says, whoever, right, wishes for the hayat dunya, the life of this world, and the glitters and the glamours that come with it, نُوَفِّي إِلَيْهِمْ أَعْمَالَهُمْ فِيهَا. We're going to give them whatever they wish, right? وَهُمْ فِيهَا لَا يُبْخَسُونَ أي لا ينقصون شيئا مما قدر لهم. Allah will give it to them. It won't be taken away from him, but this is muntaha na'im. This is the only pleasure that they are going to taste. And the one in this world. But then after that, أولئك الذين ليس لهم في الآخرة إلا النار. These people, they won't get nothing but nar. Right? And when you look at the Ilmaniyah, their goal is what? جمع الدنيا, right? To gather aspects of this world, right? The glitters and the glamours, the pleasures of this world, this is their main focus. وَالتَّلَذُّذ بِالشَّهَوَاتِ وَلَوْ مُحْرَمَةً. Even if it is haram. Remember what he said earlier. We don't sit down discussing, right, whether this is okay to do and whether it is not. It could be riba based, it could be something that compromises your deen as a whole, it could be something that takes you out of the fold of Islam, but as long as it's in the best interest of the government or the way we structure our lives, that's the most important thing. And that is other than your religion. وهذا لا شك ولا ريب, it's something that takes you out of the fold of Islam. If you believe, right, that these policies that you have is far greater, right, than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has come with, then this is a ticket out of the religion, brothers and sisters. And even Shaykh al-Fawzan said there's no doubt that this person now has this belief. طيب, number 4. Number 4. Inshallah ta'ala, we're nearly done, bi'idhnillahi al-bari. We are nearly done. I'm going to try and hurry up as well because I have a class in London. I completely forgot that I had a class today. So we was in London yesterday. We drove down here in the morning to do this class, and I'm going to drive back again, and I'll come back in the night. Today I live on the M1. Liberalism, in a nutshell, my brothers and my sisters, and in summary, it is the concept of live and let be. Live and let be. Someone now wants to take off the hijab. If someone now wants to behave a certain way that is immoral, live and let be. Right? Even today, what we see taking place, it is the natija. It is the result of live and let be liberalism. Statue of liberty, right? You will have your liberties, your freedom to do as you wish. Homosexual practices that was once upon a time shunned upon. By the way, again, I'm just quoting, guys. Something that was shunned once upon a time. In the UK, if you were caught doing that, it was a capital punishment, right? Death. This is in the UK. Once upon a time. However, as morals shifted, all of a sudden now it is acceptable. Sahih? It is acceptable. Well, inshallah, we're going to discuss this in a little bit more detail in a moment. Live and let be. He wants to carry out these practices with same genders. Live and let be, don't get involved. Right? Some of the verses that I have written down here, my brothers and my sisters, is when Allah Azza wa Jalla said, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ. Haven't you seen the one who took his desires as his God? He worships his desires. Right? Liberalism has foundations. It has usus. From the usus of liberalism, my brothers and my sisters, تقديس العقل. It is venerating the intellect. Right? Also individualism. The whole world revolves around him. He does as he wishes. He does whatever he wants. Freedom. Right? Also the verses that speak about al-amru bil-ma'ruf wal-nahy 'anil munkar, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, has been completely disregarded. Right? What did the Messenger say to you? When you see evil, what should you do? Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi. If you've seen evil, change it with your hand. You can't change it with your hand, you have to change it with? You have to change it. Is that first step or second step? If you can't change it with your hand, you have to change it with your tongue. You can't change it with your tongue, you have to change it with? وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. And that's just the weakest part of an iman. Right? So this is a very important concept in our religion. Enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, of course, doing that with wisdom, using softness and gentleness when addressing someone who's doing haram, right? It gets me thinking. So this concept now, it completely, right, goes against this aspect of al-amru bil-ma'ruf wal-nahyu 'anil munkar, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. If left off, as Allah has told us, it was the reason why many nations were destroyed. لُعِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ عَلَى لِسَانِ دَاوُودَ وَعِيسَى بْنِ مَرْيَمَ ذَلِكَ مَا عَصَوْا وَكَانُوا يَعْتَدُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jal cursed, right, Bani Israel upon the tongues of Isa and Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam. And that is because كانوا يعتدون, they used to violate the limits of Allah. Also, كانوا لا يتناهون عن منكر فعلوه. They never used to, right, disapprove of the evil that was taking place around them. They never used to forbid the evil. So because of that, they were cursed. Also, we are told about the people of Sabbath, mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf. فَلَمَّا نَسُوا مَا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ أَنْجَيْنَا الَّذِينَ يَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ السُّوءِ وَأَخَذْنَا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا بِعَذَابٍ بَئِيسٍ بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْسُقُونَ. When they stopped forbidding the evil, Allah saved those who were, right? Those who were forbidding the evil, they were saved and everyone else was destroyed. Two groups of people were destroyed. You know who they were? Those who kept silent and those who encouraged the evil. Just for remaining silent, right? They were destroyed alongside those who were encouraging the evil, brothers and sisters. Allah only saved those who are enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. So now you see a woman, right, who's not wearing hijab. You say to her, sister, you shouldn't be dressing inappropriate like that. The liberal will turn around and say, Akhi, leave her alone. None of your business. Right? Let everyone do as they wish. Now you ask me the question. You said it's, everyone is free to do as they wish, right? How much of her body can we actually see? If we go off with this concept of live and let be, she's going to take off a hijab. Also, she's going to take off her clothes. Huh? To what extent? Are there any boundaries? Are there any perimeters? Huh? To what extent? Live and let be. I'm going to show you guys the contradiction of it. And these questions that I posed to these individuals, right? And eventually they're left tight-lipped. To what extent? You're saying live and let be, let everyone do as they wish. To what extent? You're saying don't get involved now because the hair is showing. Don't do amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. What if now she takes off her clothes? You're not going to say anything? Now what happens today if a woman's walking outside naked? Is anyone going to accept that? Is the government going to accept that? What happened to liberalism? Where do you draw the line? Likewise, if I wanted to harm another, are you not now taking away from my liberties, right? From my freedoms? Why can't I harm another? You guys said live and let be. Let everyone do as they wish. Sahih? I want to now harm you. What's stopping me from harming you? Based on this principle that you just put down. And this is why none of them will say that live and let be is there in its absolute form. They say we have to put down boundaries and perimeters. We have to draw the line somewhere. Where do we draw the line? Who defines for us that which is considered harmful or seen as reciprocating harm? Who draws that line? Based on whose idea? Wallahi, right? It's an ishkal now. They have a problem. Whatever you see to be morally unacceptable, I may see to be perfectly fine. And that is again because you're using your aql, you're using your intellect. Are you guys with me? Can you see how this is very problematic? This way of living your life. Live and let be. Because you're not going to allow that woman to walk outside naked. Government rule states that this goes against al-dhawq al-'am, sahih, which means them walking outside naked is something that is considered you violating the laws of this country. Sahih? Am I bluffing, by the way, guys? Is it allowed for someone to walk outside naked? No, but live and let be, though. You're saying on one hand that one is allowed to live however they want. They can dress the way they want, and you can't say anything about it. These are liberal values. Sahih? What's stopping her now from walking outside naked? That's why they're in a bit of a pickle now. In Parliament, they're debating. They're grilling Rishi Sunak. Right? Children should just be allowed to be children. Now they're discussing whether a child can identify as a cat. Isn't that what's being discussed now? A child identifying as a cat. Well, I seen a video of a black guy, right? He was in America. He was holding. He goes, "I identify as a white lesbian." Huh? Because what's your issue? Why can't I identify as a white lesbian? He's holding a. And then I don't know whether it was. I think it was an actual lesbian that approached him. And then he says to her, "Listen, don't call me a bigot," right? She was calling him a bigot. Because I identify as a white lesbian. It's a black guy. I identify as a white lesbian. What's stopping him now from identifying as that? وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. So they have to draw the line somewhere. And who draws that line? You're going to find yourself in a pickle. Right? Do you guys remember? I think I mentioned this in the first lesson. When I went to Australia, where was I transit at? India, New Delhi. And I ran into a guy called Mark. Mark, heartbroken, he was on his way to Australia by himself. I said to him, "Why are you going to Australia by yourself?" He says, "Oh, me and my girlfriend were meant to go together, but then, right, we let each other go." I said, "Why?" I was getting very nosy. Why? Because wallahi, I saw her, she was having inappropriate conversations with the opposite gender via text message. And also she used to go outside wearing very revealing clothes. MashaAllah. Sounds like a Muslim, huh? I thought this was a perfect opportunity to brainwash him. So I said to him, "What's the problem? This is me playing devil's advocate now. What's the problem? Liberal values, live and let be, right? Live and let live. That's what they say, right? Why are you preventing her from doing so? Why are you being so controlling, Mark? Let her do as she wishes." I was, "No, man, I'm not comfortable." "Oh, you're not comfortable. She's comfortable, though." So who determines what is okay and what is not? He's scratching his head. I said, this is why we need an external entity, and that is Allah, who governs us with the Sharia, tells us what is right and what is wrong, what is morally acceptable and what is not morally acceptable. Otherwise, there will be chaos. This is why sometimes when I arbitrate between husband and wife, the husband's complaining about his wife, saying, "Oh, I don't like the way she dresses outside." Like, how is she dressing? She's wearing makeup. She's wearing very tight clothes. I was like, "What's the problem?" Because no, I'm not comfortable with it. طيب, what's your problem with him? She goes, oh, he talks to women. He turns out, akhi, they're just work colleagues. Why is she being so controlling for? And then there's what? A clash of views, right? They're each other's necks. He wants to live life the way he wants. She wants to live life the way she wants. Type, who now determines what is right and what is wrong? Otherwise, there'll be continuous chaos. Agreed, my brothers and my sisters? We need the external entity, who's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an entity that is greater and higher than everyone, who governs us with the Sharia, gives us rules on how to live our lives. Otherwise, there will be chaos. And this is why we see chaos even within Muslim households, due to these Western ideologies and concepts. Yeah. طيب, we hear atheists and liberals saying the reason why we should completely get rid of religion is because it is the cause for so much bloodshed. It is the cause of so many wars that are taking place. It is all because of religion. That's why we need liberalism. Let everyone do as they wish. And we've already proved that this is very contradictory, because I might try to harm you and then you've got a problem with that. You don't allow me to harm you. That means you're not allowing me my freedoms of doing as I wish. It's contradictory. Hmm? And by the way, I came across some of those who put down rules. They weren't able to answer that question, even when they were writing. This was a problem that they had in finding a solution to. That isn't religion, especially Islam, the Islamics, right, who are the cause of all of this bloodshed and all of these wars. Hi, Jama'ah. Allah, Hamoud. They say this all the time. Hi. According to the Encyclopedia of Wars, out of all 1,763 known recorded historical conflicts, 121, or 6.87%, had religion as their primary cause. Only 6%, guys. Right? Matthew White's The Great Big Book of Horrible Things gives religion as the primary cause of 11 of the world's 100 deadliest atrocities. Only 11. This is a Kafir thing, right? What's even more astonishing is the findings of an individual called Calavi Hostley. Have you guys heard of him? Calavi Hostley. He's someone who extensively researched wars worldwide between the periods of 1648 and 1989. His findings concluded that religion was never the primary causes for these wars that took place worldwide. He said 15% was due to economic gain, 34% was due to territorial gains, 12% was due to wars over the throne. After the king passes away, then the kids, they start killing one another in order to seize the throne. And only 3% was because of religion. 3% was only because of religion. And of course, you had other things like nationalism, revenge, civil wars, and revolutionary wars, defensive wars, and so on and so forth. 3% was because of religion. 3% was because of religion. That was another important aspect that I quickly wanted to mention. What was the point I wanted to mention? SubhanAllah. If I remember, I'll come back to it, inshallah ta'ala. And the last point that we're going to take, inshallah ta'ala, and this will be pretty quick, my brothers and my sisters, it's saying that homosexuality isn't a sin. Let me ask you guys a question. Carrying out the practice of homosexuality, don't give me your own opinions of these guys, just quote the verse. Or quote what God says in the Quran. Just in case you have channel 4 sitting next to you. So they're going to record you. Just quote the scripture. As long as you quote the scripture, no one can say a single thing. Just ask Jacob Rees-Mogg. You guys heard of him? Jacob Rees-Mogg is one of Boris Johnson's right-hand men. And he was on the Good Morning Show when he was being hosted at the time by, what's his name? Piers Morgan. Uncensored. And he kept on grilling him, what's your view? Wallah, I benefited so much from this video. I ask Allah to guide that person. He kept on asking, what's your view? And every time he asks him what your view is, he says, according to the teachings of the church. According to the teachings of the church. He goes, why don't you give us your view? He's trying to what? Throw him under the bus. He's trying to catch him out. Because the moment he gives his own view, it's a problem. He's going to have trouble being MP. So I said, okay, there's a way around it, as long as you quote the scripture. So I rinse out this meter. I used all of its credits. Alhamdulillah, not a single video of mine has been taken down from YouTube. Even though some of the videos are very colorful. So you guys are aware. Let me ask you guys a question. Which one is worse? In the eyes of God. Don't give me your opinion. It's in the eyes of God. Allah Azza wa Jal. To carry out the sin, or to believe that there's nothing wrong with it, or that it's not a sin. Which one's worse? He said to believe that it's not a sin. Why? He said because you're going against the word. Let me ask you guys a question. The one who commits a zina, which one is worse? The one who commits it, or the one who believes that there's nothing wrong with zina? Remember what I said right at the beginning, in the introduction class, right? Negating an aspect of the deen. What is the ruling of the sin? If I say now that this doesn't apply, even though Allah said it applies, this takes you at the fold of Islam. Ali ibn Abi Talib said, "Man jahada harfan fil Quran faqad kafar." Whoever what negates one letter, whoever says this letter shouldn't be there, has left the fold of Islam. And even Allah said, وَمَا يَجْحِدُ بِآيَاتِنَا إِلَّا الْكَافِرُونَ. None negates our verse except from amongst the kafirun. There's something also called istihlal, to make something that is haram, halal. And now which is halal, haram. This again takes you out the fold of Islam. Doing the practice is a major sin. Doing zina doesn't take you out the fold of Islam. It's a major sin. It doesn't take you out the fold. However, believing that it's halal, you're gone. You guys get a difference? Don't mix the two up. You know, I was saying to the brothers in South London on Friday that our generation is a transitional generation. What do I mean by that? We lived at a time when this practice was completely unacceptable. Agree? I'm sure all of us are old enough that once upon a time this thing was very shunned upon. It was completely unacceptable. Growing up as kids, we would even make jokes that you are like this. You guys know what I'm talking about. If we see someone acting all weird and everything, you start calling him names. It was either a derogatory term to annihilate that person, to get him to be more manly. Sahih? However, now you can't say that. Agreed? Can't say that. So we've all kind of like lived in that time. And we're seeing changes. So it doesn't sit well with us. However, you know who the victims are? Next generation. When they now start living in a time where this aspect, right, or this concept is normalized and popularized. And they'll turn around and say, "Akhi, what's the problem with it?" They might even argue, "There's nothing wrong with it, Akhi." When Allah in His Quran, He called it أَتَأْتُونَ الْفَاحِشَةَ مَا سَبَقَكُمْ بِهَا مِنْ أَحَدٍ مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ. Lord said to his people, you guys carry out a fahisha, a very immoral, despicable, evil act, and I'm quoting, no one ever preceded you in this from the time of Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, guys. Huh? From the time of Adam and Eve all the way to the time of Lot, this was unknown. So he said, مَا سَبَقَكُمْ بِهَا أَحَدٌ مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ. Right? But now these kids, and this is what really scares me. They're going to turn around, right? But there's nothing wrong with it. And this is what borderline Islam now. I was having a discussion the other day with a brother who has now started doing these homosexual practices. I said to him, Akhi, how do you feel after you are done doing that practice? He goes, I feel absolutely, meaning really bad. You know the word that they use, SH and whatever. That's what he said to me. I entered into this phone call thinking that I would have to disprove the arguments that he brings forth, right, to legitimize this practice. But I was honestly really shocked. Like, I don't know how or why I thought that maybe because I've been having these discussions too much, I thought that he would be the same. Because, bro, I know it's wrong. Make dua for me. I'm struggling. Right? He knows it's wrong. This is not as bad as someone saying, Akhi, there's nothing wrong with it. Like the Scottish Prime Minister who came out and said, it's not a sin. Which one is worse? Without a shadow of a doubt. هذا خطير جدا. And the next generation, they're going to see a brown man saying this and thinking, oh, he's a Muslim. If he's saying that, then he must have legitimacy. It must be maybe, perhaps okay, صحيح? اعلموا الفرق. This is the difference, my brothers and my sisters. It's very, very dangerous. Right? Very, very, very dangerous. May Allah Azza wa Jalla protect us from that. I will stop there, inshallah ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Inshallah ta'ala, next week will be our final lesson. Will be our final lesson, inshallah. And we should be done with the 10. We're going to try and take 5 tomorrow, next week. It was just these 5 that I was a little bit scared of taking too much time on. Especially, I wanted to spend a lot of time with feminism. Me and feminists have become the best of friends on Twitter, right? The rest, inshallah ta'ala, should be pretty straightforward. Yeah? Jazakumullah khairan, barakallahu feekum. May Allah honor every single one of you guys for taking time out on a Sunday, right? When normally people are resting. And just remember this, brothers and sisters. When you take time out, right? When you take time out, I should say quality time, from the best part of your day to learn about your religion, based on the sacrifice that you are making, the greater the gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as opposed to someone who just studies. Oh, wallahi, when I find time, I'm going to give it to Allah. You guys see the difference? I know a lot of you guys on a Sunday afternoon, you guys work throughout the week, but then Sunday when you can be resting, or you can be going out for a walk, or playing football, or relaxing, but you choose to come and sit in the house of Allah Azza wa Jalla in front of this miskin, right? May Allah Azza wa Jalla bless you guys with that and give you as much or greater than what you can think of. Next week will be the last one, inshallah ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. And let's leave questions for next week. I've got a show after the lesson. Right? I'm going to show after the lesson in West London. So I'm going to get off now, inshallah ta'ala. جزاكم الله خير.